Hello everyone, I'm the person who made the page. Okay, so we have a Michael Jordan fan who wants to go on. He's from YouTube. He goes by the YouTube username of Michael Carrig. This is the second time he's been on. He has Michael Jordan as the #1 NBA player of all time, and he would like to explain why Michael Jordan is the #1 NBA player of all time. So let me put him on. Hey, welcome to the program.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you have had me back on. I really enjoyed our conversation last time. Had a lot of fun. And so, yeah, let's get into it.
Thank you very much, and welcome back. Glad you had fun then. Okay, so you have Michael Jordan as the #1 NBA player of all time. Please feel free to explain if you like.
Yeah, of course. To remind listeners where we left off last time, what I'm talking about is, because you were talking about why do I hold the door open yesterday. You said, why do I hold the door open for this possibility that Cristiano Ronaldo fans, or Lionel Messi fans for that matter, could be comparative to the list that you have developed for Michael Jordan. And my reason
I never developed a list for him again. I never developed a list for him.
What I'm saying is that you had a number, you said it was higher, and that even if I continued to match those, you'd be able to produce more. Right? That's what you said.
Right.
So I'm not going to make that list. I don't have any interest in doing that.
Why not? Well, why not? But why not? What's wrong with doing that?
Because I don't want to go, like, in the time that I had, I didn't want to spend it on YouTube comments logging what I find annoying.
No, you don't have to do that. But you know what Donald Trump fans think, right? And you know what Joe Biden fans think, right? So if you went by a general consensus of what both sides think, you could find more questionable things on one side over the other, and then therefore come to a conclusion and say, this side is more questionable than that side.
Certainly, but I don't think the ability to find that consensus is as easy for what you're talking about as it is about political positions that are posted in articles every day and then supported by large bodies of people.
Why would you think that's a fair point? Now, why don't you think that?
I look for an article on people.
No, I got you. I understand. I'm asking you. I'm saying that's a fair point. Now I want to know, why do you think that?
Why do I think what exactly?
What you just said.
That there isn't the same ability to find articles.
Yeah.
I think honestly, and I want to know. I wasn't able to find some of the things on Michael Jordan that I was looking for. I was looking, specifically, I was looking for the Space Jam opinion, and I saw some comment on the LeBron James version of Space Jam's trailer. But I didn't find anything that was talking about that in the way that it represented
But why would you start, or if you didn't start, why would that be one of your first ones when you know that's a smaller percentage? Why don't you go by the big ones? Go ahead.
No, because I already trusted you on the big ones, right?
Okay, so
we already agreed on the majority of those.
Okay, but if we agree on the majority, and I don't think you can agree on the majority because I don't think you know all the big ones, which is okay.
On the majority of what you said,
right,
I don't know what you have in the.
That's fair. So if you go by the big ones, by the ones that I said, you should know by those examples that they're the worst. No one can even touch them on all those things.
I'm ready to go on to Jordan, but I will.
All right, go ahead. No, if you want to go on to
I will make this last comment.
Right,
I do want to make.
Well,
this
then I might follow up. You can go ahead. I might follow up to that.
Absolutely, and that will be the end of it. The way that I interpreted the list that you gave were that some of the things were like, and we talked about this yesterday, that they should be put on a continuum from someone saying that someone will absolutely be the greatest for all time, just from a logical standpoint, to having the belief that Michael Jordan is the greatest leader. As a scale of stupidity, right? I think they're on completely different tiers.
Why? They're both ridiculously the same thing, on the same level.
No, because leadership, it's a subjective claim. If someone has various standards for leadership or a way they perceive leadership, they may say that.
Come on, listen. You're not wrong. Okay, you're making a fair point about the subjectivity of it. But let's just put logic has to come into play, reason and common sense. And let me ask you: if someone said to you, out of all the basketball players who ever played basketball, Michael Jordan is the greatest leader of all time, and by the way, also the greatest team player of all time. You can't find how that's so. Those things are so ridiculous.
No, it's not that I can't find them to be so ridiculous. They some aspect of them are ridiculous. Some of there may be some kernel of truth.
Well, then, I'm not surprised because you're a Michael Jordan fan, so of course you're going to find it somewhat fine.
So, in terms of like the specific examples that you gave, for instance, the case of Michael Jordan's leadership, for instance, right? If someone made the statement that Michael Jordan was a great leader with flaws, and that plays into why I perceive him as the greatest player of all time, right? That would be one thing that is the kernel that I could find reasonable, right?
Okay.
When someone takes it to the absolute, right, then it becomes less reasonable. But even at its maximum, it does not reach greatest player for all time, or Space Jam should have won an Oscar, right? Those get into a higher level.
I didn't understand. I understood your first 2 points. What did you mean when you said it doesn't reach the greatest player of all time? What do you mean by that?
Reached it. Sorry. Maybe you misheard me. Or maybe I'm misremembering something that I said. But what are you referring to?
That's fine. Never mind. Let's just go to.
I meant reach the threshold of like they have a different level of insanity, right? There's a different threshold.
Okay, so if you're saying, see, there was a lot of things to bring up here.
You're talking. I think I know what you're talking about. You're saying that if someone he's a great leader, but he had flaws, right? He punched Steve Kerr, yada yada yada, right? Sometimes he was a harsh person to play with, right? But there are these other examples of his great leadership, of his intensity, whatever. Intensity was another thing, like killer instinct or something like that. You said as something that people say. Again, there's a kernel of truth. There's a kernel. But this has nothing.
This has nothing to do with anything I'm saying. I'm talking about when they say he's the greatest leader and the greatest team player. Those are.
What I'm describing is
hang on.
Okay.
Those are very. You're fine. Those are very ridiculous, and they're the same level of ridiculous as the other thing, which I forgot what the other example was. And
Space Jam and greatest player for all time.
Hang on. I think there was something else, but it doesn't matter. Those are fine too. And also, when they say that. Look, he's a great leader, but he had flaws. Even that has a problem because he wasn't a great leader. He was terrible. But even if you disagree and you say, no, he was a great leader and he had flaws, okay, that has nothing really to do with the topic.
No, what I'm saying is that, like, the reason why these fall on a continuum is because I can find reasonable ways of framing some of these claims, how they can be claimed on the continuum of their claim. Of those claims.
What do you mean?
Whereas with Space Jam, there really is no continuum.
No, I don't understand what you mean.
It's an Oscar or not.
No, I don't understand what you mean. What do you mean? I don't understand what you mean.
Okay. What I'm saying is, like, what you're saying is there's a consensus of these beliefs among Michael Jordan fans.
Right.
And those are going to be stated, right? And so some people are going to state them as absolute. Some people are going to state them with more nuance, right?
Okay.
And
a third one.
Given that range of nuance,
a third one.
I find them...
No, a third one. A third one you can also throw in there. Some of them may not even care about the topic, but they won't question other Michael Jordan fans who care about the topic.
Yes, I would agree with that. Okay. See, here's what I find to be the general truth of what you're saying about Michael Jordan fans and like the debates and discourse around it.
All right.
Michael Jordan has a cult of personality. In America, it's an incomparable cult of personality.
In the world.
Right? Like, again, like, this is where where we differentiate, but that's fine.
Well, no, actually, I'm surprised.
I
want to make sure I understand. Are you saying that Michael Jordan fans in America are very different from the ones in the world, throughout the rest of the world?
Oh, no. I thought you were saying... So I misinterpreted what you were saying. No, absolutely.
Okay.
Michael Jordan fans around the world, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Michael Jordan fans in general, right, are subject to a cult of personality where the statement that Michael Jordan is the greatest player has been removed from any type of analysis or any type of, like, complex interpretation of the claims that are being made. They have become cult, you know? So, these cult statements... They are absurd, and I can absolutely see what you're talking about. Now, when it comes to saying they are the worst, like we never fully resolved the separation of certain concepts from sports. Like I agree with you that they can be separated from the analysis of sports, but not from the analysis of a sports fan, right? But presuming we are talking about a fan and only their thoughts about sports, irregardless of any other thought, I find it perfectly possible that Michael Jordan fans exhibit this the most. And as I said before, the only thing that I could imagine being comparable, right, since you explained and I accepted your premise about the comparison between LeBron and Jordan and that they are Jordan fans, right? Which I do at a statistical level.
Okay, there's a lot here. So let me. I was waiting.
Yes.
I don't mind waiting, but I want to make sure I get in there sometime. You know. So
yes.
are you saying? Yeah. No, thank you. Are you saying that you agree that Michael Jordan fans exhibit the most, meaning in terms of being the most questionable, or what did you mean by that?
Yeah, what I would say is I can accept your premise up to the point that this a new phenomenon, right? This as Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi.
Oh, it's not new. It's been going on for a while. No, it's not new. They've been doing it for a while.
I'm saying as their career is ending.
Okay.
And now that there's this totality of this body of evidence about their careers, that it then intensifies now to becoming insane cult camps making these arguments. That was the door that I was leaving open. But beyond that, there isn't much. I don't have disagreement. I've seen what you're talking about, and I find what you're saying. If it's not absolutely true, it's certainly a rational proposition.
Okay, so you're basically saying, you can tell me if you don't agree with the statement, you agree they're a cult, it's just a matter of how much of a cult they are.
Well...
Or how questionable of a cult they are.
Well, I'm saying that different elements of like what they are saying will have variance in them, and that variation goes back to why the actual fundamental reason why people started making this argument about Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
There's obviously variance. Not every Michael Jordan fan thinks the same way, acts the same way, has the same contradictions, and so on. But when you put it all together, there's enough to go, this is how they are as a group. They're all part of the journey. They all have similarities in majority of their takes, and even the ones where they don't agree. Even if you say, no, they're not the similar in the majority of their takes, they don't question each other when other Michael Jordan fans have do things that they may not agree with, and then they will question LeBron James fans or other group of sports fans who do something that is just as questionable or more questionable than the Michael Jordan fan that they're not questioning. If you didn't get all that, I understand that. Did you get all that?
The only part I'm confused about is the distinguishing of Michael Jordan from LeBron fans. Like,
yeah, they're the same. They're the same.
Yeah, so this is essentially they're doing the same thing for two people.
Actually, no. They're not actually LeBron James fans. They're Michael Jordan fans.
Well,
hang on.
There are real LeBron James fans.
Hang on. You're not getting me. There's LeBron James fans, there's Jerry West fans, there's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar fans, and all that. Those are regular fans. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the ones that you, Michael Jordan fans, distinguish as LeBron James fans. Nobody else says those are LeBron James fans except you, Michael Jordan fans. And also, they're actually not LeBron James fans. They are Michael Jordan fans. The only difference, there's only one difference between them. I told you this on the other call. Some have Michael Jordan number 1 and LeBron James number 2, or some have LeBron James number 1 and Michael Jordan number 2. That's it, and that's not much of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, there's two elements of this, and then I'll let you conclude because we were going to stop earlier, but it went on because it's interesting.
I knew it might keep going. But
I do believe that there are genuinely LeBron James fans who have very strong feelings about LeBron James.
I agree.
And that some of the, you could say they're Michael Jordan fans, but I don't think that it means the same thing as what you're defining.
So let's define definitions.
I think I think there is a tendency to reflexively say, oh, if it's not LeBron James, then it's Michael Jordan. I don't think that necessarily pulls them into the same category.
No, but it doesn't. No, it doesn't. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that's the only difference. Everything else is the same. If you disagree with me, show me some differences. I'm open-minded. What do you consider to be a Michael Jordan fan and LeBron James fan? What do you think are the differences?
Well, the way that you're defining a Michael Jordan fan as being someone who has ridiculous arguments about someone being the best, right? It naturally creates this analogy with what I would say are LeBron James fans and Kobe fans, right?
They're all Kobe Bryant fans are also Michael Jordan fans. The majority of
I don't know if we're going
try to understand. The majority of NBA fans are Michael Jordan fans. The majority of them. So there's a certain group of people who think a certain way, who act a certain way, who contradict themselves in a certain way, and so on. What those people do is when they go by, for example, I'm just going to give you a few examples. When they go by rings, when they go by finals MVPs, when they think the 1980s and 1990s is the number one NBA era of all time, and there's more examples, but you get the point, those are certain types of people, and they are Michael Jordan fans.
Okay. And here's where I can say I can agree with you. It would require a semantic shift, right? But that there is a certain type of NBA fan that centralized their thinking about Michael Jordan and also now LeBron James and also Kobe Bryant that have an enormous amount of stupid takes, and the most of them are applied to Michael Jordan. Would that be a rough equivalence with a slight semantic shift?
That's the only part I didn't get. What do you mean by slight semantic shift?
That you're saying they're Michael Jordan fans, and okay, tell me if I'm wrong. That they're being fans of LeBron James or they're being fans of Kobe Bryant is tangential and secondary to their being Michael Jordan fans.
You can be fans of anyone else, but their main thing, it's going to go in the direction of Michael Jordan.
What I would suggest is that there have been Kobe fans and LeBron fans that have come up in this culture of Michael Jordan fandom, right?
Yep.
And they're coming up in that culture has made it so that they talk, think, and argue in the same ways.
Yep.
And that those ways are often wrong.
Yep. They also, there's more, they contradict themselves, they move the goalposts, and so on.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. A lot of people who are young kids, they're growing up in a world where they're learning from Michael Jordan fans. They're growing up in a Michael Jordan zombie world. Michael Jordan fan zombie world.
That's an interesting way to put it, but I get your meaning, and as I said, I think that's reasonable.
Okay, great. So, just to clarify, do you agree that the people that we're disagreeing about, they're not actually LeBron James fans, Kobe Bryant fans, Stephen Curry fans, or whatever, they're actually Michael Jordan fans?
I think they're all of that. I think that they form different groups, but you're saying if Jordan is a connective tissue of the idea of having a cult of personality around a player, then I would say yes.
What I'm saying is, they're fans of the other person or the other people, no doubt. Most people are not fans of one player in the sport they like. But at the end of the day, their place that they're going, their angle, their zone and all that is a Michael Jordan fan place, zone, angle, and all that.
Yeah, I think that's a way to describe it. What I would say is that there are GSW fans who apply the same principles, even if they're not talking about Michael Jordan, to Stephen Curry, and that can be argued to derive entirely from Michael Jordan. Maybe it started earlier as a form with Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, but it only crystallized with Michael Jordan.
Okay, so it seems like you agree.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so now the reason why I think Michael Jordan is the best player, and I don't think, ultimately, we do have a basic agreement, which is that saying that anybody is the best as an objective truth is a little bit absurd, right?
Quick question.
It's always,
quick question. I want to ask something. I just realized something. If you agree about that whole thing about those other people are Michael Jordan fans, they're growing up in that kind of world, they're influenced by Michael Jordan fans, they're zombies because of other Michael Jordan fans and so on, I would think that you would at the same time question them. So if you question them, but then you yourself think that Michael Jordan is the number one NBA player of all time, aren't you contradicting yourself? Aren't you? How do you square that?
What I would say is that the way I started as a Michael Jordan fan was as a Bulls fan, right? I forced my grandmother to be Scottie Pippen as I was Michael Jordan as I played on my little basketball hoop, right? But when I became a serious NBA fan, my favorite player was Steve Nash, right? And the way that I entered into like analyzing and taking in basketball was watching tape, using the new tools of the internet to watch tape and learn more about basketball, and advanced analytics, which is something that I think you said before that you think has no function.
Yeah, analytics are ridiculous.
Basketball data.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's where we're going to differentiate.
But hang on. What do you? I think I know what you're going to say, but I want to verify this. When you agree with me about other fans being Michael Jordan fans and being questionable, and you have some of their takes, how is it that you question them but you don't question yourself? Then how you're being inconsistent? How do you square that?
I'm going to do something that annoys you, but have I said anything about Michael Jordan yet that has been their takes?
Yes.
What is that?
Well, let's start with the one you just brought up a few seconds ago, analytics.
Okay, well, see, I think like the basic undermining of analytics on account of Michael Jordan, and not as a tool for all of basketball, which basketball teams themselves use, is a little silly.
No, there's many problems with that argument, but go ahead. Many problems with what you just said, but go ahead.
Okay, I would love to hear them. But what analytics has done is given us new tools using data and using information to parse what we see on the court, right? No. Sometimes it's counterintuitive, sometimes it's intuitive. So it might not necessarily say
it's always counterintuitive.
What we believe.
Okay, so this I made a whole.
No, it's not always counterintuitive.
No, it's always counterintuitive. It's not. They're not factually reliable. They're not statistics. They're magic formulas that some momo came up with and tried to make money and got a name off of it. And suckers got into it and they assumed, well, hey, look, everyone, teams are winning, players are doing well, the games, coaches are doing fine. Analytics is there, so it must be working. It's like someone saying,
no, that's not my assumption.
Okay, that's fine, but it's like someone saying, look, everyone. The reason water is in the world is because there's a flying elephant that's invisible. Well, you can't see the flying elephant, so it's invisible, so they just assume it's true. There's a lot of problems with analytics. A lot.
What you mean is that analytics aren't causal. They don't cause anything.
I'll tell you what Steve Kerr. I'll agree with Steve Kerr. Analytics has a place. It can be reliable for certain things. So, for example, he didn't say this, I'm saying this. If you want to find out, where does Steph Curry shoot well on a Tuesday night when he's being guarded by Kevin Durant? Here are the analytics. I don't even know if those analytics exist, but if they do, just to give you the benefit of doubt, that is reliable. But when someone says the number one most efficient player of all time is Michael Jordan, and then they themselves don't even go over the criteria of what counts for PER, and then they themselves are not even consistently ranking players according to PER, that shows you that one, PER is not reliable, and two, they're not being consistent.
Okay, well, I'll say about PR. PR is a pretty archaic analytic at this point, right?
They all are.
But no, they can't. Maybe not archaic. You can find them wrong, but they're not archaic. One is old. Some are new.
Well, the function of them have changed. Most of them are old.
The interests of analytics have changed, right? And what it values. Now, if you understand the mathematics and you go into what are the coefficients, what are the regressions that are applied, you can understand the reasoning, and you can say, just like a poll.
Have you done that? Have you done that? Have you gone into have a PR?
Absolutely.
Okay. Did you know, for example, and I'm sure you know this.
Well, PR,
go ahead.
Yes, but a long time ago. I've always hated that statistic, so I don't want to get hung up on that.
You're fine, but I want to show your inconsistency. You have two inconsistencies. One, if analytics are reliable, then you should be consistent and say analytics are reliable. You don't get to pick and choose which analytics you think are reliable or not. And number two,
of course you can.
Number two,
just like you.
Well, hang on. Number two,
go on. Sorry,
you're fine. Number two, if I'm wrong and you say no, you can do this, you can pick and choose what you want to go by, then you have to apply that logic to everything else in life where something that you think is reliable can be cherry-picked. And then you also have to base your rankings. When you rank players or movies or TV programs or whatever you rank, you have to go by that same analytics. So for example, I assume you were to think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is better than Bob Pettit. This is my assumption. You would have to then say, how do I square that with PER that says Bob Pettit is better than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? And I can give you David Robinson and Bill Russell. A Michael Jordan fan will tell me David Robinson is better than Bill Russell. And then according to PER, David Robinson is ranked higher than Bill Russell.
Yeah.
How do you square that? But you guys don't.
Yeah, so I see analytics as tools, right? Tools have, some are useful for one function, some are useful for others, some are better, some are worse, some are badly designed, some are well designed, right? And so, when you talk about something like PER is a statistic that's overtuned for offense, has no means of interpreting defensive metrics, right? And it creates particular coefficients that weight the value of a two-pointer, value of a three-pointer, etc. Now, the reason for those, basing them on league averages for the time, I think is a reasonable way to design a coefficient.
Do you understand
analytics.
Analytics are not facts? They're not statistics? They're formulas? They're guesses?
They're formulas. They produce statistics.
No, they don't. No, analytics don't produce statistics. They use some statistics along with guesses and formulas and beliefs, and they basically cherry pick things.
This goes back to our poll conversation, because polls do much the same thing. They choose weightings, they choose phrasing, etc.
But what they do is they compile information. Hang on. Nobody said polls create facts. Polls show you examples of what people believe
and I haven't
think.
said analytics create facts.
And that's my question. That's my question. Do you understand they're not facts?
Absolutely.
Okay, so why would you rely on something that's not factual?
Because the idea that we can determine epistemologically that we can make judgments only on what we know absolutely is a little bit silly. Okay. There are things. There is something called experimental knowledge. And I think experimental knowledge throughout history, like if you apply the same logic to the history of physics, we would never have a discovery.
You are talking about
why did Einstein use Riemann?
Hang on. You are talking about things that are true because at the time they didn't know the answer, and anything in the world today, if you don't know the answer, then you can go by guesses, analytics, tools, or whatever you want. But once you know how to prove something factually, you go by facts, and in the NBA world, that would be called statistics.
Wait, so what you're saying is that pure box score, the evidence that you get from a box score, is an infallible fact?
No, I'm saying if you're going to go by ranking players and if you're going to come to conclusions, then you go by what's reliable. And if you're going to tell me, hang on. If you're going to tell me statistics are not the only reliable thing or they're not perfect, I would agree. But if you then say I'm going to go by analytics, you're going by something that one is not factual and two is less reliable than statistics.
No, it is factual according to the terms that are allowed. It's not factual if you do not know how it is composed.
No, it's not. You're just telling me that you believe it's factual.
No. That's not what I'm saying.
That's exactly what you're saying.
No.
It's a belief.
Because I can make a disagreement and I can wait. That, okay, I think there's this slight problem with this coefficient, right? But I can still see some value in the way that it's done to improve on the baseline.
I don't say there's no value to it, but I'm saying two things to you. One, it's not as valuable as facts, and two, it actually creates problems. There's inconsistency.
It helps us. Like, for instance, you can look at Wilt Chamberlain's career, right? So
it hurts people, not helps.
What'd you say?
It hurts people. It doesn't help.
What hurts people?
You said it hurts. You said it helps people. I'm saying no. It hurts people. It doesn't help.
No. Well, let's think of it just a simple thing.
Sure.
When you talk about scoring, right, and you're comparing someone between the 1960s and the 1990s, or let's say the 2000s.
Okay.
That would be even better.
All right.
The 2000, what?
No, I'm saying, okay, all right.
Okay, so the 2000s, you have about 94 possessions per game. In the 1960s, you have about 112. So if you make a statistic that relates scorings to possessions and normalizes those two eras, it makes it easier for us to compare those two eras.
You believe it normalizes it. You believe it makes it easier. You are doing a video game simulation where you say, if I take out Steve Nash and put in Jed Bushler, let's have analytics simulate what would happen. And by your logic, because I did this one time.
There's no simulation.
Well, there is. No.
What are you talking about?
There is a simulation.
This is simply a conversion.
It's the same thing as a simulation. You're literally saying, take this out, put this in, and let's find...
No, simulations are predictive.
No, they're not predicted. They're simulated. You don't know what's going to happen. Simulations
functions are to predict. Are you talking about mathematics or what?
They're trying to predict. They're not going to predict.
Yes. Obviously, it's a prediction.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Analytics are predictions. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Analytics are hypotheticals and predictions.
Yes, of course. They're hypotheticals and predictions. But they're meaningful hypotheticals.
Meaningful to who?
Which can be proved over time.
They're meaningful.
Just let me finish this point.
You can't prove these things. You cannot prove.
No, I didn't say over time.
Yeah, I know what you said. I heard you. I'm saying you cannot prove these things. You cannot take Wilt Chamberlain's era and say, if I took Wilt Chamberlain and put him in 1998, here's my prediction of what would happen, therefore here's my proof over time. It doesn't make any sense.
No, that's not what I said.
You said you can prove them over time.
What I'm saying is that we jumped from my statement about Wilt Chamberlain to the function of certain analytics. What I said about Wilt Chamberlain wasn't a predictive analytic. All it's doing is associating scoring with the amount of possessions. Two factual things and combining them.
Right, but that's right? No. They're taking two factual things, combining them, and then coming to a conclusion.
Yes, and it's a reasonable conclusion to make. This is how many points were scored
now we're going in a circle. It's not a reasonable conclusion because it is a hypothetical prediction.
No, that isn't hypothetical. We have.
Oh, okay. So you have the proof that you have the proof that Wilt Chamberlain would do a certain way in 1998. Please show me the proof.
No. Okay. Oh, now I understand what you're saying. You're saying that that normalizing it isn't helpful because these eras were absolutely different and therefore incomparable?
More than that. I'm saying two things. One, it's not a fact. It is a hypothetical prediction, simulation, whatever. And two, there's so many other variables that would come into play. They're not taking into account the other variables.
Okay, so this confuses me a little bit.
Well, it shouldn't.
So analytics are problematic because they cannot account for every variable.
That's part of it, but I also say the reason analytics are not reliable with Michael Jordan fans is because even if I grant you everything you say about analytics, you guys are not even consistent with your own beliefs on analytics.
I don't know where I have been inconsistent about.
I'll show you. I'll remind you again. You do not go by all the analytics. You cherry pick what you want to go by.
I choose a specific class of analytics that I find interesting.
Right. No, you do more than that. You also have said, don't quote me, I don't have your exact words. You have also painted this picture, summarized or whatever, where you made it seem like some analytics are more reliable, some are less reliable, and you made it seem like, don't quote me, you made it seem like some analytics are legit and some are ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I definitely believe that's true.
Okay, well then that's not consistent.
The consistency would come if I gave you the reasons why some are or some aren't.
You can go ahead.
You can choose to believe that or not.
You can go ahead. I don't go by beliefs. I go by facts and consistency. You can believe whatever you want. I won't even debate you on your beliefs.
I'll just make a counterpoint then.
Okay.
If we are to rely simply on box score and eye test, there is no conversation to be had.
Okay. Well, then let the Michael Jordan fans know this because they're making conversations.
Well, I mean, if we can't agree on terms that there is meaning to statistical conversion, that there is meaning to applying coefficients to numbers, that we can get something, and then we can use our brains to analyze that information and try to come to a conclusion about it.
To take a word that you said, that is absurd. If you're going to come to a conclusion, if you're going to rank players, if you're going to go by errors or whatever you're going to do, you have to A, go by facts and be consistent, and B, you have to apply this to other things outside of basketball.
Well, I would apply the idea that there are different concepts and tools that are better or worse for analyzing different subjects. No,
that's not the disagreement. That's a slick thing. That you did that earlier. I wanted to bring that up. So I'll give you an example. If you went by statistics, there's no such thing as points, rebounds, steals, or whatever is better than the other. They all play a role, and you could say, like you said right now, there are tools that help you understand, and you can go by what you like. That's fine. I got no problem with that because you're going by facts. But when you then say certain statistics are better than others, or certain ones are more reliable, or some are more ridiculous, and then we can come to a conclusion, that's a problem. You're doing that kind of thing with analytics.
No, that's done through testing. It's done through application.
Analytics were not around for a very long time for the majority of sports. They did just fine, and I haven't seen any changes in who they draft, who they trade, who they sign, and all that. To give you a great example, if Michael Jordan played in the NBA today, nobody would say, should we rank him? I don't know, get me the analytics.
I don't know if that has anything to do with what we're talking about.
It does, because if you're saying analytics are reliable, and you said earlier it's used so much in the NBA, which has a problem right there, but I'll get to that later if you want, then by your logic, you have to explain two things. How did they get away with it before analytics, and how come everything is pretty much the same when they have analytics?
Well, do you not believe that analytics have played a part in the transformation of how basketball is played now, over the last decade?
Very small. And I can back that up with proof, not beliefs.
No, I would say that the three-point revolution was launched by analytic thinkers.
No, the three-point revolution is something that you Michael Jordan fans came up with. You didn't say this, but you guys paint this picture where you say all they do is shoot threes, they just stand around and shoot threes. Back then, no one shot threes, and it's because of analytics. The reason they shoot more threes is because in any sport, whenever you have a team that's dominating, the rest of the league tries to catch up. The Golden State Warriors were dominating threes, so everybody tried to catch up.
And do you realize how they developed?
Yes. Jerry West.
Through personnel.
And
wrong. Through analytics.
Wrong. Jerry West.
No,
I'm going to tell you facts. Jerry West was a big part of how the Golden State Warriors came into play. He was an advisor. Stephen A. Smith, who's a typical Michael Jordan lover, said something like, those trophies have Jerry West's fingerprints all over it. Jerry West does not like analytics. Why are you talking about
Stephen A. Smith?
Well, I'm just showing.
Let's avoid the TV goofs.
Okay, all right. He's a big time Michael Jordan lover. I just want to put him out there. He's very popular. People like him and all that. But anyway, if I told you a random guy in the street said something, that wouldn't have the same meaning as Stephen A. Smith, you know. But anyway, Jerry West questions analytics big time. He doesn't really like it. He's gone on record basically saying it's not necessary, and he's basically said, don't quote me, okay? If anyone else listening, don't quote me. But he's basically made it seem like it's hurt the league.
Kerr has said in the past that he uses positional
Why would you skip over Jerry West and go to Steve Kerr?
Because I'm talking about what happens on the court.
Okay. No,
Jerry West can dislike stats.
No.
A lot of old guys dislike stats.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We were talking about the Golden State Warriors and how they came into play. Jerry West was a big reason, not Steve Kerr.
I'm talking about the way that they play. Like, obviously, when Mark Jackson was coaching, they used these players radically differently.
Okay.
When Steve Kerr came,
so now
he
you're going
applied different strategies based on the analysis of synergy statistics.
There's many problems with this argument. I'll try my best to keep it simple so you have time to follow up. Number one, we're talking about how the Golden State Warriors got together. It was Jerry West, not Steve Kerr. Number two, if you're going to go by hang on. If you're going to, you're fine.
Go on.
Yeah, thank you. If you're going to go by what happened on the floor, that's a fair argument, but try to keep in mind Steve Kerr does what his bosses allow him to do. Number three, if you're going to say, well, the bottom line is Steve Kerr's the coach and they use analytics a lot. No, they don't.
And his bosses also are big proponents of analytics.
No, they're not.
Coming from finance.
No, Jerry West is the guy.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not. You know what most NBA franchises do with analytics? I've seen interview after interview.
Bob Meyer?
No, they're not.
He's talked about it as well.
Well, let me explain this to you. Most NBA franchises have an analytics department, but they don't use it that much. In fact, some of them only have it because they feel like they're grandpas and grandmas if they don't. The Los Angeles Lakers a few years ago, they were trying to sign a player from the San Antonio Spurs, I think DeMarcus Cousins or someone, and or somebody, and they were trying to pitch to him, Los Angeles, Southern California, it's all good. And he was like, they didn't use any analytics. They did no simulation what would happen if I joined them, and I didn't sign with them. And the Lakers said, he's a smart guy, and after that they got an analytics department. But they hardly ever use it. It's just there because A, everyone else is doing it, and they don't want to be left out. And B, they're thinking, well, if everyone else thinks it's good, let's just have it just in case it comes in handy.
I don't how you're presenting this as factual. I just I've read a lot of
this happened. These
different
happen.
applications of analytics and NBA.
Try to understand what I'm doing. Don't focus on each drop of water. Look at the whole picture. If I tell you about Jerry West, I gave you a quote about your guy Steve Kerr of how he said you don't need it, but it has its place. And I tell you about why NBA franchises.
Which is my position.
What was that?
Which is my position.
No, your position is more than that.
It has its place.
You rely on way more than Steve Kerr does. You're making it seem like Bob Myers.
Rely on it to analyze players as a fan, not if I was a coach. I would obviously have a whole different set of tools.
But listen,
I cannot decide how players.
Hold on. Let's establish what our argument is. You're going all over here. You're trying to tell me why it got there, who brought it there, how much they use it, and how reliable it is. And I'm trying to show you, no matter what you go by, if you want to go by who brought it, how much they use it, why it's there, how reliable it is, no matter what you go by, there's going to be lots of problems. There's no way for you to prove all your points.
Absolutely. Okay, if you're saying that analytics are used sometimes and they are also not used, that sometimes analytics are used and it creates bad outcomes, and sometimes
I'm not saying that.
I'm
not saying that. I'm saying it's hardly ever used.
Okay, well, in my general experience, when I listen to different coaches speak about it, there's far more nuance than when I hear older players speak about it. I understand why.
No. This is why I was going to by what people say, because we can only go by what they say. And I would think the higher ups, the ones who are older, are more reliable than the lower people who have less experience. The majority of NBA Hall of Famers, interview after interview after interview, whether you talk about coaches, players, scouts, whoever you talk about, at the very least.
Well, scouting departments around the league have shrunk since the introduction of analytics.
My point is not to focus on. You're still not getting me. I'm not trying to focus on scouts. I'm trying to show you the whole picture, because that way you don't have to say, well, this is a problem, that's a problem, this is a problem. I'm trying to show you no matter what you go by, any argument you give, they all question analytics, and majority of them think it's not reliable.
I would say that there is a very sensible reason why a lot of particularly older school retired vets in various positions dislike advanced stats.
And what's your reason?
And
what's your excuse for Jerry West?
Huh?
What's your excuse for Jerry West?
What's my excuse for Jerry West? I don't have an excuse for Jerry West.
Well, how would you?
I believe you said what you said.
Jerry West is considered by some to be the greatest general manager in the history of the NBA, the greatest general manager in the history of sports. Some people.
He was not the general manager of the Warriors.
Some people. I didn't say he was. Some people consider him the greatest player in the history of the NBA. A few. It's a small minority, but they're there. And some people consider him the greatest mind in the history of basketball. I've seen the interviews. How would you dismiss all that and say, well, that's what he thinks. That's all there is to it?
I would not. I'm not dismissing. I can disagree with him, while also
why would you disagree with him?
Powers
why? If Jerry West was in front of you and he gave his reasoning and you said, I disagree with you, here's my reasoning, what logic could you possibly give that you know more than Jerry West?
No, you're making a wild leap about what I'm talking about, the application of analytics are for, and what Jerry West is talking about.
He's talking about the same analytics. No, he's talking about the same analytics.
Okay, what he's talking about is how do we use analytics and apply that to the court? And he has an opinion on that. I wouldn't question that.
No, he's not. No, that's not what he's saying. He said basically, don't quote me, okay? In the interviews, he said basically, you don't need it. It's not reliable. It can hurt the league. And he questioned how consistent it is.
That's fair. But what we're talking about is the analysis of players in the past.
No, we were not talking about that. It came to that. We were talking about other things. And if you want to talk about
that's what the premise of this is.
No, it was not. It was not the premise. It was not.
How does someone come to the conclusion
It was not.
that
It was not the premise. I told you, general managers, coaches, scouts, no matter who you go by.
You've listed one. I can list a couple others.
Okay. Well,
I understand.
I didn't get into it yet because I was, one, trying to keep it simple instead of I list a name, you list a name, and we go on forever. And two, it saves time when you just go over general managers, owners, scouts, because now you're basically encompassing everybody in general. You don't have to give specific examples.
I mean, like Carnisovas, Daryl Morey, we can talk about GMs around the league.
I don't say nobody likes analytics. I know in the NBA world there are people who love analytics, but if you're going to go by what people like and not like, there's way more that don't like it, and they're usually the more well-known, respected people. People, for example,
that's an appeal to authority. I think it's a basic fallacy.
You're missing my point. I don't say they're right because they're the majority or their authority. I'm saying if you want to give examples of names, there's more names on the other side.
If we're going down GMs, I'm not sure that that's the case.
Okay, let me ask you. Here's a question for you. What evidence do you have that the majority of NBA people, whether they're owners, general managers,
I didn't
scouts,
say people. I did not say NBA people. Obviously, the majority of scouts hate analytics. It hurts their job.
That's your assumption. It's been
stated
hold on. No, hang on. Why would they be okay with statistics but not analytics? That makes no sense.
What they do, scouting is about going and seeing the player and then seeing how those statistics convert onto the court.
And you could do the same thing according to you. You can do the same thing for analytics.
People have outsourced that in-person work with computer models.
There is nobody in the history of sports that didn't rely on having a scout watch a player before they drafted, signed, or traded, or whatever.
I never said that.
So I know you didn't. I know you didn't say that. But if you're going to say analytics hurts scouting, and you're going to say scouting does this and that, how do you explain that?
Because they're both necessary. They both improve basketball.
Okay, so then don't say analytics hurts scouting. It's both necessary at least.
No, the job, not actually doing scouting.
What's the difference? A job.
And a good scout.
I don't understand.
Would use these analytics
wait. What do you mean the job?
It's a tool.
What do you mean the job? That is scouting is the job. They go out and scout.
No, I mean they are having a job or not. Like when you have a new set of workers that are going and using predictive models to give you suggestions. You have that set of suggestions, and then you have the scout set of suggestions.
Okay, so let me ask
NBA
you.
teams
so I got you. Let me ask.
Employ less scouts.
Let me ask
That's
you.
all I'm saying.
Let me ask you. In the NBA world, I don't care who you want to go by. So don't focus on this part, that part. Owners, coaches, general managers, and so on. How do you where is your proof that the majority of them love analytics?
Where's my proof that a majority
because
of them?
You're saying you're disagreeing with me on when I go by
all
people.
I disagreed was about GMs.
No, okay.
Right.
What I'm trying to get you to be consistent. If you disagree with me on the people that I'm telling you about, you don't agree. Fine. I want to know. Then you must think that the majority of them like analytics. So if you do, where's your proof?
No. What I'm interested in is what have some of the best and most advanced teams done.
Okay.
Spurs, the Warriors were some of the earliest.
How many championships? I don't understand this argument. Championships can be won without analytics.
Of course they can.
So why would you act like they're doing something right?
I don't understand this argument. What you're saying is that because it can be done without analytics doesn't mean that analytics can aid in it being done. It's not equivalent.
There's no evidence analytics has helped anybody, and there's no evidence that anyone relies on it.
I can't prove a negative, man. That's impossible.
It's not. Listen, I don't understand. You can't prove this. You can't prove that. You can't prove this, but you come to a conclusion.
I can't prove a negative, is what I'm saying. That it hasn't done something. That is just a proposition that I cannot respond to.
Don't even think of it like that. Just think of it like this. If it's been done before analytics, and you know logically you can sign Michael Jordan, you can sign Shaq, you can sign Wilt Chamberlain, and so on without analytics, and you know statistics are pretty reliable, and you know many people question analytics, and you know people don't go by all the analytics, and you know by the ones who go by analytics, they don't go by all the lists that they have in the analytics rankings, and you know a lot of people don't even know the formulas of analytics. How do you...
Are we talking about analytics teams?
Hang on.
You're pushing a whole body of people with different views and different ideas together.
Dude, come on. How do you ignore all that and then go, analytics is reliable and the majority of the NBA world likes it?
Well, we've gone, okay. One, I did not say a majority of the NBA world likes that. I don't know if they like them or they dislike them.
You made it seem like earlier they do.
What I do know are two things.
No, so are you, okay, so I want to confirm, are you saying you don't know if the majority likes it or you know the majority don't like it?
I don't know if the majority likes it.
How do you explain that?
I do not keep account of every single NBA team's personal statements on analytics. Okay, but I have seen specific GMs.
But earlier when we talked about this, you were keeping a specific account on how popular it is in the NBA.
Yeah, I'm aware of its transformation of how offenses are run.
So then,
how
if it's
shot distribution is made.
Okay, so
teams,
then,
there's a reason why teams.
I got you. So I'm trying to get you to be consistent. If you're aware and you know it's reliable, and you gave examples of how it's been very well liked with the Golden State Warriors, the San Antonio Spurs, I think you said the Houston Rockets, and you talked about 3-point shooting and all that, then by that logic, why is it not more liked for the majority of the NBA?
Well, I find that older players do not like, and I'm talking right now. I'm talking about a lot of the people who speak about it publicly.
You missed my question. I didn't talk about older players. I said the majority of the NBA.
Well, I don't know that to be true. Okay. The majority of the NBA. I have no idea. What I do know.
Hang on. You don't know it's true. You don't know it's not true, but you come to a conclusion.
I don't believe you know it's true.
Oh, I know it's true. Based on many interviews and polling and what they say about how plays are run and all, I know it's true. But if I'm wrong, I'm going to be open-minded.
Wait, okay, please, I want to give you the time to give me what polling you're referring to.
Okay, all right. So, for example, there was a poll. Actually, can I ask you, why would you even need the poll? What about the other things I said? I'm just wondering, why do you need to...
Well, you've been making a lot of general statements.
And so have you.
And those general statements have been backed up by Jerry West, and I'm aware of a tendency in older players to do this. So I can only take it that far.
But I said to you more than once, I asked you about the majority of the NBA. Your answers have basically been...
I have seen...
Well, hang on. Your answers have basically...
Many coaches, many GMs talk about their use of analytics.
You see, like a typical Michael Jordan fan, you're not going by the whole picture. You're cherry-picking what you want to go by.
What? No. You are asking me why I think analytics are useful and functional.
And you have told me about some people liking it supposedly. How do you know how much they... Even if I grant you that the people you brought up really like it. I'm going to, again, make it easier for you. Let's say the entire NBA loves it. How do you know it's reliable?
Can you clarify that question?
Okay. I'm basically trying to ask you two things. All right? I'm asking you one, whether you think the majority of the NBA world likes it or not. How do you know it's reliable? And number two, if you're going to tell me, hey, look, it's benefited some franchises, it made people shoot more threes, it helps people win rings and all that, then I have to ask, why don't so many other people like it? I think it's the majority. You disagree. So I want to know whoever you think does not like it, whether it's the majority, everyone, a few people, or whatever, how do you explain that?
From the many statements that I've heard, oftentimes I feel like, one, it's a misinterpretation of what these statistics are and what they do, and then oftentimes it is a fear of new technology.
Do you understand these are your beliefs?
What?
Do you understand?
No, I'm just going by like what I hear when Charles Barkley or Shaq complain about advanced statistics.
But hold on. We're We're talking about franchises that have departments, that have scouts and all that. You're going to sum it down to A, they have a fear, and B, there was a second. What was the second one? I forgot.
Fear of
They don't
new
understand it.
technology.
They don't understand. I remember now. So these departments, these franchises, these professionals and all that, they don't understand it and they have a fear.
Okay, so when I hear George Gervin, or I hear Charles Barkley, or I hear Shaquille O'Neal, or I hear various older players speak about analytics, the way that they speak about analytics doesn't sound.
You're still missing my question. You're still missing. You're missing my. No, you're missing. No, you're missing my question. You did this earlier.
No, because I'm going to continue. So what I do,
I want you to go.
I do not.
I'd like you to go to my question first. You keep going to older players, which I have an answer for. But before we get to that, I'm asking you about the NBA world.
I don't know what you're referring to as the NBA world.
So I'll repeat myself.
I can tell you that as far as coaches and GMs, I have not seen this trend.
No, you haven't seen what trend?
That they hate analytics.
You just said a little while ago you don't know if the majority like it. Now you know?
I don't know if the majority like it, but I don't know if the majority don't like it either.
So then your answer then your answer should be
and negative statements that I've heard.
Then your answer should be I don't know if they like it, I don't know if they don't like it, period. But you jump ship and you come to conclusions about how much they like it and how much they use it.
No, I've been trying to say specifically about what I know.
I know,
and generalize what I'm saying.
Let's try this again. Do you know if the majority of the NBA world, which literally means the NBA world, everything associated with the NBA, owners, coaches, general managers, whoever, do you think the majority like it? If you can give me a yes or no, that'd be great.
Do I think that a majority like it?
Yes.
And we're including everybody that's involved in basketball.
Yeah, we're not talking about the janitors, the fans, the people who sell popcorn.
No, everybody involved in basketball decisions.
Right. Do you think the majority like it?
I would say that the majority does not like it.
Okay, great. Okay, so if the majority does not like it, which I'm pleasantly surprised for you to say that, that's great. I respect that you're willing to acknowledge that. And my question is, when you gave the examples you gave, which were fair examples, you talked about rings, three-point shooting, certain franchises doing well in general, and all those things. If those franchises get it, and you think it's working for them, and they know what's up and all that, how do you explain that the majority of the NBA world does not get it, doesn't like it, is not on their side and all that?
But that's not my claim. I believe that every NBA team has some degree of integration of their systems.
We're going in a circle here. Okay, we're just going in a circle. So I don't dispute analytics is in every department, but you agreed. You just said that you think the majority don't like it. Are you changing your position?
No, I think that there's a culture war going on in basketball right now.
There's no culture war. You made that up.
What?
There's no culture war. You made that up.
No, okay. Do you want to? Should I stop and search for articles that I've read about this?
You mean other Michael Jordan fans who write their beliefs? Sure, go ahead.
No, it's not Michael Jordan fans. I'm talking about journalists. I'm talking about the integration of these analytics departments and the resistance.
But it's not a culture.
It's
not a culture war.
What I'm saying by culture, I mean the culture of these quants and finance guys introducing themselves into basketball, and guys who have played basketball their lives.
Okay.
And the reaction
then how do you explain?
Introduction of
technology. How do you explain this? I know you're going to deny this, and if you do, I can't blame you. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, I'm just going to ask the question. Earlier in this phone call, you did not paint a picture that the majority of the NBA world does not like analytics. Your picture was basically at least one of these things. It's got to be one of these things. Earlier, you basically painted a picture where you made it seem like the majority of the NBA world likes analytics, or that you have no reason to believe the majority of the NBA world does not like analytics.
Like the overall argument that you're making is convincing. That if you were to go down the line and then go to a scouting department, talk to certain coaches, I think GMs generally are very positive because they come from the finance world, and you hear that from a lot of them. Bob Myers is a perfect example of someone who highly values advanced statistics.
And why do you rely on them?
Mark Cuban is another one.
Why do you rely on them? Why are these guys reliable?
What did you say?
Why do you rely on him? Why do you go rely on these guys?
Bob Myers and Mark Cuban?
Yeah, why?
I'm not relying on them. What I'm saying is they're examples of.
But the point of you giving examples is to show there are some reliable people who know what they're doing. Why are you relying on them?
I think they've been successful with the application, and they have transformed.
And there've been lots of other successful people who don't like analytics. So what makes them special?
I think this is a circular argument.
Okay.
Yes, there are successes
Let's try this. How about we try
analytics.
this? Let's just get into why analytics are reliable. How about that? If you think it's a circular argument and you're tired of this, let's get off it then. Why are analytics reliable? Let's get back into that. Hello? Hey, please subscribe. And if you disagree with me on something, you can go on my program and show me your facts on whatever you disagree on. If you want to go on, let's set it up. Send me an email. The email is right there in the description section. Thank you.